right. I'm so happy to have you here with me on this webinar. I am going to talk to you about adding extra security to your loved one's future by using a life insurance policy within your estate plan. My name is Ali Talai. I'm an attorney. I'm an estate planning attorney. I have an advanced tax degree, and really my focus is um, trying to help individuals and families with their estate plan. We don't do anything else. We are in Woodland Hills, California. I do a radio show every Friday on a local radio station, 670 AM. It is syndicated in Farsi, so if you speak Farsi, please tune in. And if not, stay right here. You could connect with us on social media platforms. If you're watching this video on YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Give me a like, please. That's always helpful. And then I do have videos on Instagram and LinkedIn on almost a daily basis. I'm talking about, again, estate planning, asset protection planning, estate tax planning, trust administration, probate, everything to do with this sort of section of the law. All right, so today what I want to do is I want to talk to you about life insurance and how it could be integrated in your estate plan. So hopefully this would be a helpful video for you. And let's talk about who can benefit from life insurance. Number one, a lot of time business owners are individuals that end up having or using life insurance in a way that would help them with their estate plan. And I could tell you two main examples. One is, let's say you have a business that it's worth $2 million and you have two kids. One is currently working with you in the business, has a lot of experience. Maybe they have the particular licenses, they went to school, they really know everything. And then you have another child that is not interested in the business, doesn't have the right credentials. And so now when you're doing your estate plan with the goal in mind that you want to do something that enables you to be able to give each child equal distribution or equal share of the estate, what can be done is that if the value of the business is 2 million, you could purchase a life insurance for 2 million. And then within your estate plan, you could allocate the business going to the child that is working with you and is aware of all the ins and outs of the business, 100% to that child, and then that insurance policy 100% to the other child. The other time that these sort of policies could be used, these life insurance policies could be used within the context of a business, is that if you have partners that you started a business with, let's say there's 3 partners, in most cases, what it's recommended to do is to have an agreement that is referred to as a buy-sell agreement. And one of the main trigger points with these buy-sell agreement, it talks about what happens when a partner passes away. Again, just like the example before that maybe one child has experience and the other doesn't, a lot of times when you get into partnership with different partners, there is a particular reason that each partner is there. Maybe, somebody knows how to do a particular thing. So for example, if I have a partner that is a fantastic chef, and that's why we decided that we'll go in partnership, if unfortunately he passes away and if he has the right to freely transfer his share to his spouse or his children who have absolutely no experience in the business, don't know how to cook anything, then that may not be something that I would want to do. So a lot of times in these buy-sell agreements, there's restriction that says when this person dies, the interest that he or she has stays within the business, it stays within the partners, but then the business would pay the spouse of the person that passed away or their heirs an X amount of dollars, whatever the value of the shares are. So a lot of times what could be done is that the business would purchase a life insurance on the life of all the partners, or the partners buy life insurance on one another's life. And when that person passes away, that life insurance acts as a mechanism and acts as a way to be able to pay the deceased spouses or the deceased partner's spouse and heirs the value of the business that he or she owned, that percentage that it was owned. So that's why a lot of times you get to see life insurance policies used within the business owner context and that area. Then a lot of times it's a good idea if you have younger children, to have these policies in there in case, unfortunately, the parents pass away. Now you have this policy that could cover up the expenses. As you know, kids could get pretty expensive, and then you add the schooling and college and all that stuff. And so this could work as a perfect way to be able to provide funds at the time that you're not here, unfortunately, and then also makes it easier for the guardian to take care of your child. The other scenario is that if you're caring for a disabled loved one, so let's say you have a parent that is disabled and you are their caregiver and take care of them. What we want to do, we want to have something in place that in case you passed away and now you're not there to help for their care, that there is money left that you could have somebody else continue doing what you were doing. And that's what really this life insurance policy is. So if I'm taking care of my parent, I purchased the life insurance on my life, and then I could name my parent as the beneficiary of the policy. Or I could name someone else. I could name a trust. The one thing you got to keep in mind is that if you're going to leave money for the benefit of your loved one, you got to make sure that it's done in such a way that if they are receiving Medi-Cal or government benefits and things like that, it doesn't disqualify them from those. All right, let's talk about a charity. So now if you're charitably inclined and you want to use this life insurance policy for a charity, this could be another great way to help the charity you like or charities you like. You could purchase the life insurance policy and then name the charity as the beneficiary of the policy. And that could really result into a greater distribution to them. Correct, they're not going to get the distribution today, but then if something would happen, most likely they're going to receive a larger distribution than if you were going to pay them in monthly payments. When you set up when you set up a life insurance policy and then you name a charity as a beneficiary, because the charity is not receiving any money right now, and the charity would only get paid at the time you pass away, the amount that you're contributing to the life insurance policy, these things are not going to be tax deductible, income tax deductible for you. There are ways to be able to provide for a charity within a trust. There are trusts called charitable lead trust or charitable remainder trust. And then now with those structures, when you transfer an asset, when you purchase a life insurance, whatever asset that is transferred into the trust, that value to a certain percentage of it allows you to take a deduction now, even though the charity technically has not received the money. But because it's in those particular trusts, you're able to take distributions, or not distribution, you're able to take deduction now that would offset some of your income. So there's some income tax planning with charitable trusts that is a bit outside of the scope of this webinar, but it's definitely something that we could do. All right, let's talk about those families that have a large estate, and it's probably a good thing, I mean, yes, you may have to pay some state taxes, but because you could plan around it and not pay any state taxes, or at least reduce it, that's why I'm saying it's a good problem. This guy here to the left, I'm not really sure if he's laughing or he's crying, or maybe in the midst of both. Maybe he just found out he inherited a lot of asset, but his parents didn't do any estate tax planning. So he's laughing and crying at the same time. But if you have a larger estate, if it's above the exemption amounts and then you pass away, that amount that is above the exemption amount, it's susceptible, or it's subject to estate taxes. And state taxes become due 9 months after the person passes away. You can get an extension of 6 months, but that 6 month extension is really just to actually do the tax returns. The amount of money that is due, it's due within the 9 months. The currently 40% above the exemption amount would become due within 9 months. There are, a couple of exceptions that you could get an extended time to pay those things, but it has different requirements. And in most cases, not everybody qualifies for it. And then, so now if you got a large tax bill, and you have assets, let's say like real estate, that are not readily available for you to just take the money and pay the taxes, it puts the heirs in a situation where they are forced to sell a property, quicker, and which means that they may not be able to get the true fair market value for it. And a lot of times, they don't want to sell the asset. It's producing income. It's got really, got no mortgage, got all these great things, and they really want to keep it. But then because they have estate taxes to pay, and I'm referring to your heirs, then they may be forced to do that. If we structure estate tax planning, estate plan, using a life insurance, we can have a structure that we could use the life insurance policy to pay state taxes and things like that. So then kids don't have to sell the properties right away. All right, let's talk about naming the right beneficiary and how crucial this becomes. There's these beneficiary designation form that is associated with these life insurance policies. And what you want to make sure is that you want to make sure you designate somebody or something in there. The worst thing is that you get the policy and you never fill out the beneficiary designation form. And what happens if it's not filled out, then it's going to be distributed by whatever the agreement says, or sometimes a state law. But in most cases, if you don't have anybody named, it will say that it's going to your estate. And that means we're going, or your loved ones are going through probate in order for them to receive the policy limit, whatever they were going to pay. Sometimes these policies say to your spouse or heirs, but based on my experience, most of the times, if you don't name anybody, the default language is that it'll go to your estate. The other problem or issue that I see a lot of times is that people name their minor children as a beneficiary. I mean, it's good that they have at least filled out the beneficiary designation form, but if you name someone that is not of age, not of legal age, California being 18, they're not going to be able to get the money. The insurance company is not going to pay any funds to somebody that is 10 years old. So then what happens is the executor, the trustee, would have to petition the court and request for them to be appointed as a guardian for the minor child. And now the life insurance policy is payable to the guardian. Guardian holds the money for the minor. And then there are usually a yearly reporting and accounting to the court that is due. And then at some point, again, here in California, when the child turns 18, they get all the money all at once. And the problem in most cases is that now there's no asset protection. And God knows what the child would do with that money. In most cases, that is not the best option. All right, let's talk about if you name an adult beneficiary as your beneficiary on the beneficiary designation form. As you can see, this guy is very happy. He's going to receive some cash. They'll get the fund practically, immediately. The problem is that the money's at risk. If now the beneficiary gets a divorce, that could be maybe considered part of the marital property if it was commingled. If there's if there's creditors or debts that he owns or scams and things like that, it's all susceptible to those sort of things. So again, it's one of the options, but in most cases, probably not the best option. You could also name a charitable beneficiary, and we talked about that a little bit ago. Obviously, the charity gets the money right away, and they could use it for projects that they need to use it for. The other option for who you could name as a beneficiary of the account is that you could actually name a trust as a beneficiary to the life insurance. And trust, in most cases, they have a much longer lifespan than a human being. So they may work out better for avoiding probate and providing more asset protection and those sort of things, and much more control of how you want the asset to be spent. The way it's set up is that the money is paid to the trustee of the trust, the person that is in charge of the trust. This trust could include instructions of how the money is to be spent. And then it could provide asset protection. So now if the beneficiary is going through a divorce, that money would be very difficult to attach. If a creditor files a lawsuit against the beneficiary, again, it would be very, very difficult for the creditor to have any access to the funds. So it might be a better way to do it. When we talk about trust, there's really two types of trust that is used in most cases with these sort of planning. When we talk about who do we name as the beneficiary of the policy, the first one, this revocable living trust, this trust is going to be named as the beneficiary of the policy. Versus the other trust that we'll talk about that would actually have ownership of the policy. So a revocable living trust, this is a kind of a trust that you create while you're alive. You execute the documents, it's living and breathing document. As soon as you sign it, you don't have to pass away in order for it to become effective. As soon as you execute it, it becomes effective. You can change it, as the name suggests, it's revocable. You could make amendments. You could do whatever you need to do to it. You don't need to file any tax returns for it. The fact that you have your home, your business, LLC, all these things that you have connected to it does not make it different in the tax filing that you do. You're usually the trustee and the beneficiary of the trust. These trusts, they have the person that creates it, they call them a grantor. They have this, which is you. Then they have this person that manages the trust. They call them trustee. And again, a lot of times, if I'm creating it, I'm also the trustee of the trust. I will have successor trustee named if in case I'm not able to serve. And then they have this beneficiary role. With the beneficiary, there's really two types of beneficiary. You got the current beneficiary and you got the future beneficiary. Future beneficiaries when I'm not here, after I pass away. So if I name my kids in my trust as the beneficiary, they're truly not a beneficiary right now. When I set it up, I'm the creator, I'm the trustee, I'm the beneficiary. And so I get to serve in all three roles, and I have the power to make all changes and all that stuff. So that's why this trust really has lots of flexibility in there. And then if I'm unable to serve, incapacity, or if I passed away, then that's when the successor trustee steps in and then they could manage the asset. Let's talk about how this thing is created. You could see here, you have the grantor kind of smiling, I think, and he creates this trust. RLT is revocable living trust, transfers the accounts and the property to the trust. Again, it's really essential to make sure that the assets you own are titled under the name of the trust or somehow connected to the trust. With life insurance, what we want to do is we want to name the revocable living trust as the beneficiary of the trust. They continue to manage. So they're, the grantor, same happy face, trustee, same happy face. I get to continue to manage the investments, the property, and it's realistically what I'm doing now. With my real estate, I pay the mortgage, I pay the insurance, I get insurance, hazard insurance. So it's the same thing that you're doing now. Then you got that successor trustee there. This person steps in if you're not able to serve or you don't want to serve. You don't have to pass away. You don't have to be disabled to not, for a successor trustee to step in. I can say, you know what, for now, I want to name so-and-so as my trustee, and I may change your mind. I may change my mind and make a change in there. You receive all the benefit from the trust, as we discussed. And then we talked about successor trustee steps in if you no longer want to. And then now at the time you pass away, money and property are distributed to the beneficiaries according to the terms of the trust. So that's your revocable living trust. Let's see. Let's talk about this irrevocable life insurance trust, referred to as ILIT. This kind of trust, in most cases, they don't sit as the beneficiary of the life insurance policy. They get to own the life insurance policy. So now if we're getting into a planning that we're trying to do for asset protection, if we're doing it for estate tax planning, then we want the actual policy to be owned by this irrevocable life insurance trust. As the term suggests, it's an irrevocable trust. And what that means, the only thing it means, that the person that created the trust, he or she, cannot solely by himself, by herself, cancel the trust. When you have a revocable trust, all that means, the only thing it means, that the person that created the trust, he or she is the only person that can revoke it unless we make adjustments. But so sometimes people think if it's an irrevocable trust, it could never be changed, and it's, that's it. But the reality of it is, if the trust is created and provides additional flexibility in different terms, there could be adjustments made to the irrevocable trust. And one flavor of an irrevocable trust is this life insurance trust. It's created by transferring existing policy to the trust or purchasing new policies. And then what the person that creates it, so if I create this thing, and if I'm doing this, let's say for estate tax purposes, and when I say state tax purposes, the idea is that the insurance policy is used at some point to pay any estate taxes that are due. Within the policy, these sort of things are not written. It's sort of a tacit understanding that the beneficiary are to receive this distribution. And if they don't want to sell a property to pay state taxes, then they could use this money to pay state taxes. And then I use my annual gift. Currently, I have a $17,000 a year annual gift that I could make that does not reduces my lifetime exclusion. And then at the time I pass away, the trust receives the funds, and then the trustee distributes the asset according to how the trust is set up. So let's quickly talk about how an irrevocable trust works. You see the grantor right there transfers existing life policy insurance into the ILIF. Trustee, or the other case we talked about, that the actual trust purchases these policies. One important factor here is that if I'm doing this for asset protection, or in most cases, if I'm doing this for estate tax planning, I created, but I'm not the trustee, or I'm not the beneficiary of the trust. If I still am the trustee of the trust, if I'm still the beneficiary of the trust, it's not going to have the estate tax planning and protection that we need. I use my annual gift tax exclusion to make the gifts, to pay the premiums, and then at the time I pass away, my beneficiaries will receive the distribution. Also, if this is a policy that accumulates cash value, my beneficiaries could technically use that during the time I'm alive and benefit from the trust. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have questions, please call me. You have our number there, 818-285-2850. You could make a 15-minute appointment with me on our website, free of charge, and I'll be happy to talk with you and figure out, what sort of estate planning you're going to need. If you have somebody that is looking to do their estate plan, please share this video with them. Hopefully it will be helpful for them, and I hope it was helpful for you. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thank you.